For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on your favorite podcast app. I appreciate your time today. This episode is going to be somewhat Winnipeg-centric, but with a whole bunch of celebrity stuff. So, just years ago when Winnipeg was barely on the map, you know, the city didn't really have a great arena, so it was hard to sort of get the big concerts or the big shows or the big name talent. Well, now we've got the likes of Barack and Michelle Obama, and lots of high-profile people are coming through Winnipeg. And so I have had the great fortune of going to several different celebrity appearances in Winnipeg in recent weeks, and I will tell you about those on the show today. Anderson Cooper was around not too long ago it was a conversation with Anderson Cooper. It wasn't the show that he does with Andy Cohen, where apparently is very, very funny, but it's not that one. He kind of just told about his life story, so I'll recap my thoughts on his conversation with Anderson Cooper show coming up in a little bit. And Michelle Obama was just in Winnipeg a couple of days ago. I was an invited media guest to check out that appearance. I'll have my thoughts on that. And funny woman Margaret Cho has a comedy tour date in the Peg, and we're going to have Margaret on to talk about what people can expect with her recent round of comedy. And I want her to chime in on the whole Justin Trudeau blackface thing, because you know that scandal ain't going away anytime soon. Margaret often likes to say that people should lighten up. Most comedians do. And I want to hear her thoughts on that, because I know she's a fan of Justin Trudeau. So I want to see if she's changed her opinion of him after that scandal of photos that were taken 18 years ago. I don't need to recap the story. You already know what happened. So, lots going on today. Lots of celebrity chatter. This is The Scribble. My name is Jeremy Bradley, and it starts right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
JB here, back on The Scribble. So, Anderson Cooper was in my hometown of Winnipeg a couple of weeks ago on a Sunday night. I had, media passes to go and check it out. I was in row 13, and we went, and I thought that he was going to talk politics, because if you've seen his CNN show, I mean, he also basically has on guests because that's the news of the day, right? Obviously, in the United States, much of it is about President Trump or the politics race that's happening right now, or just race in general, I guess, now that I put it that way. So I wasn't sure, how is he going to present himself to a Canadian audience? Obviously, we know Canadians kind of shake their heads and laugh about American politics. So is that something that he would play on, right? Is he going to come here and be like, well, American politics? No, Canadians aren't going to want to hear that. As expected, yeah, he made some comments about how Canadians are completely different than Americans and how it's so much nicer in Canada. People are friendlier. It's not as intense. And so I think that's kind of what you open with to warm up to the crowd when you're appearing there. And he was speaking at a podium and just talking about his life story and how things have changed him over the years. As you know, we all have experiences that do that. And then he moved over to these big comfy chairs, and he was interviewed by a local radio host. Again, it was a conversation. It wasn't so much an interview back and forth thing. So he talked about how when he was growing up, his dad died when he was young. I think he was 10 years old when his dad died. His brother committed suicide, jumped from their balcony, and then his mom, Gloria Vanderbilt, she recently passed, she witnessed the brother do that. Her own son, she witnessed committing suicide. And so Anderson naturally was shaped by these pivotal moments in his life. But then he also decided to become a war correspondent just on his own. He wasn't a journalism student. He had no experience. He wasn't working for the big companies. He went overseas. And I mean, that's where you witness, the despair and the, let's be honest, they're not, they're not tropical Caribbean resorts, right? So he went and, he sees dead bodies and he sees parents carrying their, dead kids trying to find a place to bury them. And, all these things that shaped him. And, he was telling stories about how when you're a journalist, you're meant to be a fly on the wall. You're not intended to get involved. You just capture it. So if somebody is on the street getting beaten up, or there's floodwaters and they're on their roof waving for help, you are just supposed to capture it and not get involved. Obviously, now we see things have changed, right? I think in some instances, I think the reporters try to show that they're a hero and they want that, they are getting involved so that they can say, "Oh, I helped pull this woman out of her house." I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do, obviously, but if you're doing it for the glory, you're not doing it for the right reasons. But nevertheless, you did save a woman's life, which should be commended. And so Anderson was saying how, you kind of, sometimes it's better to be human, is what he was saying. And, you kind of forget that, okay, I'm here for work. I'm here for a story. I'm here to get that sensationalized image. I'm here to, get a scoop. I'm here to get the top story on the newscast. I'm here to, whatever, get the front page photo. And that's where he said sometimes it's better to be human, as though, let's just take a beat here. Let's stop and realize that, yeah, I can take a picture of this person dying on the side of a road or the dead person on the side of the road, but that person has a story. That person has, or they could be a dad, a mom, a brother, a sister, whatever it is. And everybody's got a story. And so, even in death, there should be some dignity when it comes to that. And so he talked about how on his show, he knows that there's people that come on there and lie, and he doesn't get confrontational. He did kind of, when I say take a shot, I mean sort of a jab at Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo, who have that very aggressive, confrontational interview style on their shows. And Anderson said, I'll know the person is lying, but I'm not going to call them out. I'm not going to call them a liar. I'll just let their words, I've got the proof. I can play the tape of them saying something different and then have them defend it or whatever. But he's like, I can't stand rudeness. I don't like rude people. I don't like being rude to people. I'll let you have the platform, but, be honest. If you're not, well, I can, in a polite way, maybe almost in a somewhat Canadian way, try to show that you're lying. But I'm not going to call you a liar, though, because that's rude. Even though you're being disrespectful by lying to me, I'm not going to do that. So again, it was fascinating to hear how all of these things have turned him into, what he is today. And then also to hear that, sure, he's this high profile anchor on CNN, but he's very much not a recluse, but like he's very an introvert. Like he's not out there. He's not the life of the party. He's not with Andy Cohen, partying it up at bars all the time. He very much keeps to himself. So again, it was interesting to hear that from him, and I think we don't often take the opportunity to sit and just listen to somebody's story. Often, if it's a rant on social media or somebody doing a blog on YouTube or whatever it is, and you hear like a 6-minute rant, they're doing it for sensational reasons. Very rarely, though, if you just go and listen to a speaking engagement, just listen to somebody's story. They're not necessarily trying to teach you anything. There's no... I didn't feel that he was trying to teach us anything. I think he was there, one, just to entertain us, and two, have us take away something from that. And I really did get that. And like I said, it was very refreshing to go and hear that and have that story and that input. So my thanks to Anderson Cooper and the friends who invited me there as a media guest. It was great to check it out. Now, shifting gears from somebody who reports on the news to somebody who makes news, Michelle Obama was also in my hometown of Winnipeg. Again, I got the opportunity to check in her, I guess it's a show, her speaking engagement anyway. I'll tell you about that coming up in the next segment. And remember, Margaret Cho is on deck as well. We'll be back here on The Scribble.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. So Michelle Obama, I'm going to say the First Lady, but I guess it's former First Lady, was in Winnipeg. And so I had a chance to see her. I was an invited media guest at a conversation with Michelle Obama. Now, it's sort of, I guess, the same thing as the Anderson Cooper chat. You just assume that it's going to be a lot about politics, right? Naturally, I mean, let's be honest, it's Michelle Obama, so a big part of her life and kind of why she's famous is thanks to politics. So, but I didn't expect her to be weighing in on Trump or anything like that. Coincidentally, she was in town in Winnipeg the day that the impeachment hearing, inquiry, whatever they're calling it, when Nancy Pelosi, Michelle Obama was in Canada when that happened. So this is one of those things where it's like, do you remember where you were when... Yeah, I remember exactly where I was. I was sitting there with Michelle Obama, and I get a news alert on my phone going, oh, okay, they're going to move ahead with Trump impeachment inquiry. So anyway, so it was great. I have to say it was over lunchtime, and I think the audience is significantly different at that point. I think what they were maybe banking on, and I don't know, I don't have any insider information, was that it would be businesswomen. It was downtown Winnipeg, where you've got the office towers, you've got, the office workers, you've got everybody there. I expected that's kind of what they were going for. It was sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce, so again, that's sort of an indication that they wanted professionals there. And it was a very middle-aged crowd, it really was. People dressed up like in suits and everything. Like you'd almost think that you were doing dinner with her or lunch with her, but meanwhile you're just in an arena with thousands of other people looking at her. But yeah, some people dressed to the nines for this. And much like the Cooper thing, she came out, she had, a local person, actually I don't know who the person, I think it was like the chancellor of the university or something, had, pre-written questions on a card. So that was sort of boring too, because as an interviewer, I always feel that that's really impersonal. I feel like it shows that you don't know enough about the person that you're interviewing to basically have a conversation. If it's a conversation with Michelle Obama, which is what it's called, do your research. Find out that she grew up on Chicago South Side. She had, this many siblings. This is what her parents did. This is, her upbringing and things like that. It's one thing to have the person tell the audience that, but kind of set it up as well. It's interesting because I had sat in on a guy who was trying to launch a podcast one time and he wanted my input. And so I was like, okay, I'll come, I'll watch you do a recording. And as soon as he had two people there as guests, and as soon as the segment started, he's like, okay, so why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do? Well, I'm sorry, as the host, that's your job. Anyway, so enough about critiquing. Maybe I'm just bitter because I didn't get to interview Michelle Obama when she was in Winnipeg. Nevertheless, so she talked about her, her upbringing. It's fascinating because her words pack a punch, and this is going to sound disrespectful, but I'm not meaning it disrespectfully. She speaks in sound bites. There's more that unites us than divides us. Education is the key to, and so she kind of will always end a statement with something like that. Now, the good thing about that is that it hits you. It has an impact. It sticks with you. And I'm sitting there, of course, as a reporter. I've got my notepad and I'm like feverishly writing all of these things. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, it's interesting that, yeah, she's one soundbite after another. So she did. She talked about what it was like being a girl of color growing up in Chicago, how her parents they felt that they didn't have the means to open doors for her, so they instilled empathy and compassion in her and her siblings. And she said that her brother is the favorite still, but she talked about how life changed the night that Barack was when he won the election, and that's when life instantly changed. Immediately you got the Secret Service, immediately the kids' school changes, right? Everything just kind of starts to do a 180, really. And she said, the importance of having kids is, you don't want them to be what you want them to be. You want them to be what they want to be. She said that every child essentially is worth investing in. You can't pick and choose which ones are, okay, well, he's going to be a keener. Oh, he's just going to be in, trade school, or, oh, he's just going to be a dishwasher at a restaurant or whatever. And I'm not knocking dishwashers at restaurants, but, you don't pick and choose which kids get your commitment to the future. They all deserve that. They all, need that. They need that dedication. They need that guidance, that mentorship. And so again, it was really interesting to hear her go on about that. She really only talked for a little bit over an hour. It wasn't too long. And she basically said that, we're all on a journey. We're all trying to figure out life as we go along. She said, own your story. Own your story, the good, the bad, and the mistakes. So, see, like I said, she was talking in sound bites. Now, once I start telling you about it, those lines are coming to me again. So obviously she had an impact, right? On me anyway. So again, it was a great opportunity to, hear these people's story. I would say to other people, like, if you have seen her do a public speaking event, like at a graduation, or even like at a school with children, that's what you got with her at this conversation with Michelle Obama thing. So, I think it was great. It was, I don't know. It's refreshing. And, the whole thing about Anderson, like I said, is that when you actually just sort of stop and listen to somebody's story, it's one thing to watch them talk on, the cable news channel or the cable news show, and it ends up being a debate, right? And even on television, it's sort of the same thing, when it's the Christiane Amanpour or whatever. Like, it almost, I don't want to say gets combative, but at least in this one, sure, the woman was asking the questions off of the card, but at the same time, she wasn't meant to be the star of this. And I don't know that, her goal wasn't to upstage. She wasn't looking for the moment of, I'm going to zing this person, and I'm pretty sure Obama knew the questions that were going to be asked ahead of time, even though she sort of acted surprised. But I kind of like that it wasn't a conversation, so that you can just sort of sit there. It was almost like a lecture, that you're just hearing the person tell their story. I just want to hear you talk for the hour. And that's what it was. It was great. So again, my thanks to the PR folks who invited me to go see Michelle Obama, and of course to Anderson Cooper. Speaking of Winnipeg, Margaret Cho is in my hometown. Well, if this is Friday, she's a week from now. All right, we're going to have Margaret Cho on deck right here on The Scribble. Back in a moment.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Margaret Cho has been zigzagging Canada and the US on another comedy tour, and she's stopping in my hometown of Winnipeg pretty soon. She's joining us on the line to talk about it. Hello there.
Hi.
Are you ready for fall in Winnipeg?
I'm so ready. I mean, I think that, it's hard to imagine because it's very, it's been such a hot, crazy, long summer, but I'm happy for the fall of the changing seasons. I'm ready.
Yeah, I think you're probably a safe bet to miss the snow, so I'll almost make that guarantee for you, okay?
Yes, wonderful. Thank you.
We'll get to the tour in a second, but, there's a story that's making headlines in Canada, and of course that is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and, photos and videos from 18 years ago brownface and blackface. I know comedians are asked all the time about the sensitive society in which we live. What do you think in this instance? Should the Prime Minister have his life and career destroyed by something from 18 years ago?
It's all very shocking, and it's funny because it's like it's just, you can never know people, and we all make mistakes and we all do these things. I mean, I don't know. It's a crazy thing. I mean, I have such an idealized view of Justin Trudeau. Like, he is the hottest prime minister in the world. I mean, but it's like, why can't we have good things? It's like, why can't we just have one politician who's not like made any kind of errors like this? And of course, we have it so much worse in America. We have Donald Trump, who's
Right.
not just terrible 18 years ago, he's terrible every single day. And so I don't know what to do.
Well, I mean, let's just talk about your career, though. I mean, if you think back to the jokes that you were making 18 years ago, would they be too much for the world to handle now, or are you still doing them?
I'm still doing them. I mean, to a degree, there's so much that I feel like I was doing years ago that really has caught up with me. I've always talked about gay rights. I've always talked about race and feminism, and these issues were not as popular in comedy many, many years ago. But it's at the same time, it's that, I think that things change and we don't look at things as being accepted. But I don't even know of a time when brownface or blackface was any kind of acceptable thing, unless you're talking about something like the 1930s. Or, when, even before that, when they had, sort of those minstrel shows, that kind of stuff has not been a thing for a long time.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to sort of the censorship, and I mean, we see comedians getting in trouble, just that cast member of SNL, making comments or last year on a podcast, and the cancel culture thing that we hear about. I want to know, you're in comedy, do you ever have a venue tell you, hey, you know what, you can't really go there with a certain topic? Or do they ever try to censor you, or no?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that that's much more applicable in television, of course, or any sort of broadcasting. Yes, you'll get into those kinds of things. But in comedy in general, we're really able to say whatever we like. And I think that also that extends to social media to some extent. And, there's often that thing of with comedy, you want to be dangerous. And so a lot of comedians want to try to get to as close to that fire as possible. Right. And so, you see people that take lots of these kinds of liberties with their comedy. And, for me, I've always, since I started comedy, I always wanted to create a safe place for people in comedy clubs, whether they were Asian American or Asian or gay or any person of color, anybody that's a minority. I always wanted to create that safe space. So I've always kind of had a different attitude towards it, but I think comedy is, by its nature, supposed to be sort of offensive, I think, or at least the best comedy is.
I have this feeling that if somebody were to say to you, you know what, you can't go there, that you would go there 10 times harder.
I think I would try. I think that it's the natural, rebel in you. You do want to be rebellious, and you do want to also create a sense of that danger, create
Right.
a sense of the excitement that is comedy. But at the same time, I also am very conscious of people's feelings too. So I would like to do everything.
I guess it's also different when it's your own show that you're performing at, and most likely, I'd say 90% of them are your fans. They know what to expect, right? I mean, they're coming there to laugh. So I don't imagine that your own fans would be offended by something that you say, right?
I think so. That's what you want to do, is that you want to be able to have a show that people are going to really love, and yet, try to find your own way to be alarming and exciting, and there's lots of ways to do that. But definitely, I don't know, being offensive, to me, there's a place for it, and there's certainly a need for it to a lot of people. So it's a dangerous world in comedy now, because it's so easy to get canceled. It's so easy to say the wrong thing. but maybe that's a good thing. I don't know.
Was anything off limits to you back when you first started, and is anything off limits for you now?
I don't know if anything's off limits to me now. I think it's what it is, like the degree of skill that you have in doing it. You know, if you're able to do something and that really shows your ability as a comedian, then that's impressive. I think maybe before it was easier. It was way easier to get away with things before everybody had a phone, before social media. For sure, you could kind of do anything, and it was always sort of just between you and the audience there. So now we're everywhere all the time.
Mm-hmm. So you're going on tour, you're heading through Canada and then down to Palm Springs. That's the best way to do it, right? Cold first and then the heat of California. So what can people expect at the show?
It's good fun. It's going to be lots of wildness. I try to get as close to the fire as possible. It's a very fun show. It's a very raunchy, wild, crazy show. And it's great to be able to, leave America for a little bit and go to Canada where it feels a bit safer. So I'm excited to come there.
I don't know. After the Trudeau revelation, I'm not sure if it's much safer.
I know. It's so insane. It's like I did never expect that from him, I would have never, ever thought that would happen, but we just never know. We just never know anybody.
I think, again, I think it was you that said this years ago when we chatted on the radio, that it's all about the intent. I don't know him personally, but I don't think his intent was to be offensive and to be hurtful. But, do I believe he's racist? I don't know. I think maybe did he just made a bad judgment call? Margaret, do we forgive him or not?
I do. I mean, I think that the fact is that as Prime Minister, he has done so much in terms of race relations, especially for Indigenous people of Canada, for First Nations, for all of these things that are really important right now. And so I feel like the actions of his, his work as Prime Minister really can speak for the kind of person that he is. So I don't know, these kinds of things that happened in the past, they're really, that they just happen and we don't know. But it's something that we thought maybe would have come out earlier. I'm surprised that it took this long for this to reveal itself. But, it's very strange for sure.
Yeah, well, timing is that a federal election was just called last week, so that timing might have something to do with it. But what's incredible, though, speaking of Canada, is that all of the federal party leaders, 3 or 4 of them, all got together at Vancouver Pride. I don't know if you heard about that or saw those pictures. Each of the party leaders, as much as they, fight in Parliament and, they squabble back and forth, they all came together and celebrated Pride together. So that's something I think is truly Canadian.
That is really powerful, and that's a wonderful thing, and that really shows progress and where we are. And, we aspire to be Canada. America really can learn a lot from Canada.
I might not have the power, but I will make you an honorary Canadian then, okay?
Thank you very much.
It's not going to help you get through. It's not going to help you get through customs or anything, but you've got my stamp of approval, okay?
Well, I love it. Thank you so much.
I'm in good with the mayor from Winnipeg. I'll shoot him a text and maybe we'll hook you up when you get to the city.
That's amazing. Thank you.
All right, so tour dates and all the details about your projects are on your website, right?
Yes, they can go to margaretcho.com where everything is there.
And you're also all over social media, I know that.
Yes, at Margaret Cho on Twitter and Margaret_Cho on Instagram.
Well, we'll be following along. Margaret Cho, thanks for joining us today, and have a good time in Winnipeg.
Thank you so much.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up The Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. And you know what? We're out of time. Again, this was like 30 minutes of a shout out to my hometown of Winnipeg. I love it. I love it. And if you don't, well, hey, you know what? You sat through 29 and a half minutes of it, so you must have appreciated it at some point. Feel free to give me a shout anytime. It's always awesome hearing from you. The email address is live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. I will talk to you same time, same place next week. I don't know if we're going to talk about Winnipeg. We'll have to stay tuned to find out. This is The Scribble. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat